Hey, I'm golf broadcaster Matt Adams. The updated and expanded second edition of my book, The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments, is now available. Readers can expect to march with Arnie's Army at the 1960 U.S. Open, relive Jack Nicklaus's remarkable 1986 Masters win, and be amazed by the Tiger Slam. The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments. Pick it up where fine books are sold, including BarnesandNoble.com and Amazon.com.
This podcast is part of the Sports History Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sport. You can learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com.
Now, this is Jeremy McFarland for the Footballers Family Podcast, and I was thinking back in 1998, I had the opportunity to go up to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton, Ohio. My dad took me, and I know that basically he was there for the ride. For years, my family would ask, "Well, where do you want to go for a summer vacation?" And I would always say, Canton, Ohio, Canton, Ohio, Canton, Ohio, and they take us to Florida. But the year between my freshman and sophomore year at Freed-Hardeman, my dad said, "We're going to Canton, Ohio. And we're going to do it. We're going to go for a couple of days. We're going to go up to Cleveland, drive to Canton. We were going to go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland, but we didn't get a chance to do that. But we drove to Canton, Ohio, and I'll tell you what, it's a neat little drive there. And I was expecting kind of driving up to this hallowed place to kind of come out and go, oh, like the lights around it. But you have to go under an overpass, and there it is. It's an interesting place to put a Hall of Fame. In fact, I have up on my desk right now a little football that was given to me at the Visitors Center that at Canton, Ohio, that I had Walter Jones sign, and now he is enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. The Pro Football Hall of Fame was built in 1963. Actually, it was established in 1963. It started in 1962. Canton, Ohio, the people in Canton knew the history of football, that it began there in Canton, and they started raising money to get it built there, and they did it. And I'll tell you what, if you have the chance to go there, it is something that I think you will not only you will benefit from, but you will also want to go back. And I really would like to go back right now. As of 2020, there are 326 members enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It is located at 2121 George Hallis Drive. So if you ever had the chance to go up there, that's where you need to go. And today, though, I wanted to take this moment to look at men who, in my opinion, deserve to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Now, I'm not a voter. There's around 45 or so voters that vote for it. And basically what they do is it's either a geographical area, or maybe they just get a name and they said, prove your case that this man deserves to be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. This is a hard job, and you get to vote for several people in a year. And those people, when they receive a certain amount of votes, they're in. Once you're in, you're in. It's an amazing thing. And like I said, when you go into it, you feel the history come out. You feel the history all over the place. They have objects that were around from the beginning of football up until the most recent time. One of my favorite things was to see the uniform that John Elway wore, the jersey that John Elway wore during the drive. I thought that was one of the cooler places. I've got to see some of the older football helmets, things like that. But once you're in it, you deserve to be in it. And don't take what I'm about to say as a slight to the men that I'm comparing, the men that are in there that I'm comparing to the men I think should be in there. Everyone that's in the Pro Football Hall of Fame deserves to be in there. It's an honor, and they deserve it. But in my opinion, there's 7 men that should be in there as well. Now, there's many more, but I looked at 7 people, and I looked at some of their stats, and I looked at some comparisons in the Pro Football Hall of Fame that I think that when you look at these men, they stack up to some of the other men that are in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Again, this is just my opinion. If you've got opinions as well, please message me at Jeremy_McFarland on Twitter or on the Football's Family Facebook page and let me know more about it, or give me some more men that should be in this the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Also, while you're at it, like and subscribe to this. Give me a rating and let me know where I can improve. And while you're at it as well, go to the sportshistorynetwork.com and look at some of the other great podcasts that we have available. We have a great number of podcasts that have a lot more to do with history than I do, but when you read it, you get it and listen to them, you get to see just how much love these men have for history. But let's get to the story at hand. The first man that I believe that should be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame is a personal favorite of mine. In 1996, Eddie George was drafted by the Houston Oilers. Now, he became Rookie of the Year that year. And I have up in my office here Eddie George bobblehead. I have an autograph Madden cover of Madden that he was on. I have an autograph jersey that he signed. I have several football cards of him. And I'll tell you what, several good memories. In fact, one memory of a Sunday that I was supposed to be preaching, but I couldn't get out of the house. We were at the house in Bon Aqua, and I remember turning on the TV that day and watching Eddie George run all over the Cleveland Browns in the snow. Just great memories of him in Super Bowl, great memories of him running for the Titans. And it was really with him that I learned what turf toe was. And I know that has to be extremely painful. Eddie George was the Titans offense until Steve McNair pretty much took over. Eddie George was the center point of this team for several years. He played for 9 years, and I really don't count the time he played for the Dallas Cowboys. I just don't count it. It hurts to think of him in anything but two-tone blue. Now, I want you to listen to these stats here. Eddie George played in 141 games, and you're talking about playing as many snaps as he did. That's incredible. He averaged 91 yards. This is from Pro Football Reference. 91 yards. Had 2,865 rushing attempts for 10,441 yards and 68 touchdowns. He was a 4-time Pro Bowler and a 1-time All-Pro. Now, this is important because of the time he was playing. The running back started to become less as a center point of the offense, but with Jeff Fisher's offense, that's what he was. He was the center point of the Titans offense. Now, I want you to listen to this. According to Pro Football Reference, the average running back in the Hall averaged 90. This is just taking every running back in the Hall. This is what they averaged: 95 yards per game, 151 games, 2,552 attempts, 10,991 yards, and 86 touchdowns. Now, Eddie George matches up pretty well with this. Now, will he ever get in the Hall? I believe he will, but it'll be a little bit. He deserves it. But we're talking about a man who was center to a team, that a team leaned upon him. If you were to look at Gale Sayers and you were to look at Terrell Davis and you were to look at men like them that didn't have a long career but had a 4 or 5 year span where they were the team, Eddie George matches up well. He had a 5-year span. I want you to listen to this. A 5-year span where he had 1 year, he had 335 rushing attempts for 1,368 yards, one with 357 attempts for 1,399, one 348 attempts for 1,294 yards, 320 attempts for 1,304 yards. But listen to this: 403 attempts for 1,509 yards. In a 5-year span, Gale Sayers had 867 yards, 1,231 yards, 880 yards, 856 yards, and 1,032 yards. Now, no one's saying that Gale Sayers didn't deserve the Hall of Fame. Gale Sayers did deserve it. But when you look at the same span of time, Eddie George fits right into that. So Eddie George, to me, is one of those men, and he did go to a Super Bowl, is one of those men that deserves a second and third look for the Hall of Fame. Another one that definitely deserves it, and I don't know why he's not in it right now, is the defensive back from Cincinnati, Ken Riley, who passed away last year. Ken Riley went to a Super Bowl, is second on the all-time list behind Night Train Lane of pure DBs who played, or cornerbacks, I should say, who played in the NFL in interceptions, and fifth all-time with 65. In his last year playing, he had 8. Now, some have said that is because of where he was playing against. On the other side, there was another great cornerback. But let me point out something to you. It doesn't matter who you're playing on the other side of, who's on the other side of you. You still have to make plays. And in 207 games played, Ken Riley made 65 interceptions. That deserves some respect, and that deserves a spot in the Hall of Fame. Now, I want you to think about this. And again, I'm not saying that this man doesn't deserve the Hall of Fame. John Lynch is getting in this year. In 224 games, he had 26 interceptions. Now you say, well, he played safety. Well, here's the point. Safety or corner, you still have to make plays on the ball. And if the ball's up in the air, you still have to make plays on it. John Lynch made plays. Ken Riley made plays too. And not only did Ken Riley make plays, but he was the heart and soul of that secondary for several years. Cincinnati would not have been the team that it was in the 70s and 80s if it wasn't for Ken Riley. Now, we're going to look at another Cincinnati Bengal in just a second. But in my personal opinion, Ken Riley is long overdue for being in the Hall of Fame. Think about this guy. He passed away earlier this year, I believe, Marty Schottenheimer. Marty Schottenheimer was one of the best offensive coaches that I've ever seen. I remember when San Diego or Kansas City would play against my Broncos, I'm like, oh, great, Marty Schottenheimer's here. We're going, if it wasn't the playoffs, Marty Schottenheimer had some major problems in the playoffs, but in the regular season, his offense was incredible. When he had LaDainian Tomlinson, when he played for San Diego, when he coached San Diego, that was a team that you could not stop. Marty Schottenheimer was part of that. He had 205 career wins, which is one of the greatest numbers that you'll ever see. And in fact, he had a 61% winning percentage. That's incredible. And he was the 2004 AP Coach of the Year. The only the knock on Marty Schottenheimer is that he didn't win a Super Bowl. But I want to throw this out here. Marv Levy, who deserves to be in the Hall of Fame because he took his team to 4 straight Super Bowls, had 143 wins. That's 6.1 or 61%, I should say, winning percentage with the Buffalo Bills. Now, does Marv Levy deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? Yes, he does. But in that same respect, to me, Marty Schottenheimer deserves to be as well. Now, I want you to also think about this man is in addition to that, Dan Reeves. Now, growing up, Dan Reeves and that country accent of his, which is worse. I wouldn't say it's more than I had. Dan Reeves was a man that I remember fondly because he was the coach for my Broncos. He took the Broncos to 3 Super Bowls, and he took the Atlanta Falcons, the Dirty Bird. He took them to another Super Bowl. So he went to 4 Super Bowls like Marv Levy. He was a 2-time Coach of the Year with 190 wins. And listen to this. In 9 seasons, he won 10-plus games in a season. That's insane. With the Broncos, he had a 60% winning percentage. Does Dan Reeves deserve a consideration for the Hall of Fame? I think he does. He won a couple with he won a Super Bowl with the Cowboys, but you think about this. Coaching and playing are 2 different things. I think he deserves it. Another one that I remember watching growing up was the quarterback for the New York Giants, Phil Simms. Phil Simms, in 164 games, had a 95-64 record with 33,462 yards and 199 touchdowns. It should be 154 games. Sorry, I put down the wrong number. 150, but he still had an incredible winning percentage. He had 11 comebacks, 17 game-winning drives, and was part of 2 Super Bowl winning teams for the New York Giants. In the Super Bowl when he played against my Broncos, he won 22. He went 22 for 25 in attempts and completions with an 88% completion percentage. That was a record that will probably never be matched in a Super Bowl. And he was the Super Bowl MVP for that year. Now, I want you to think about Phil Simms and head to another Cincinnati Bengal that deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, and that is Ken Anderson, who also had a high winning percentage with 91 and 81, with 32,838 yards and 197 touchdowns, went to the Super Bowl as well. Now, think about those two. Ken Anderson didn't win a Super Bowl. Phil Simms won 2. But Ken Stabler, who played around the same era, in that same, had 184 games, threw for 27,000, I should say, 938 yards and 194 touchdowns, and had a high winning percentage as well. Now, again, Ken Stabler deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, but with Phil Simms and Ken Anderson's record and their passing, I think they deserve to be in that in addition. And there's one other player, and this man has gotten a bum rap because of one play, and that is the wrong way run, and that is defensive end and tackle Jim Marshall he played for the Cleveland Browns for 1 year, but he mostly played for the Minnesota Vikings. And if you ever look at the older film of them with their purple uniform and their purple helmet, their white uniform and their purple pants, and playing outside, that is the Minnesota Vikings that people hated to go play against. Jim Marshall was part of that problem that they hated to play against because he was such an amazing player. He had a chance to play for 270 games in his career for the Minnesota Vikings. He played in every single one of them. 270 games. We marvel at Brett Favre and what he did. Jim Marshall did the same thing. It's just incredible what Jim Marshall did. He was a 2-time Pro Bowler, won an NFL championship, went to 4 Super Bowls with the Vikings. I would compare him in his abilities and his tenacity and his talent to people like Bruce Smith and Deacon Jones. You know, they played in different times. Deacon Jones played about the same time that Jim Marshall did, but you're looking at the same ability, the same power, the same grace, the same move. Jim Marshall he could play in today's time. He deserves the Hall of Fame. Well, here's the problem. People are going to look and say, well, he's the wrong way one. We can't have that in there. He made a statement once. He said, I want you to take your most embarrassing moment and magnify that for a nationwide audience watching. So take your worst moment, your most embarrassing moment, put it on national TV. How would you feel about that? Jim Marshall deserves the Hall of Fame. Now, there are several more people that I could add on this, but these are my personal things that I believe these men deserve it. These are men that I'm familiar with. These are men that and again, if you have people that deserve the Hall of Fame, or if you want to add more to what I just said, please message me on Twitter at Jeremy_McFarland. Please message me. I want to learn. And the only way to learn is to figure out what I missed on or messed up on. Please let me know. This has been fun looking at these men. Hopefully in the next few years, we can remedy some of these, especially men like Ken Anderson and Ken Riley, especially those two. They deserve the Hall of Fame. Jim Marshall, put that in the list. Just if you're listening, Canton, please put these men in the Hall of Fame. Vote them in. They deserve it. They deserve it because of their career and what they gave in legacy to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I want to thank y'all for listening, and I'll see you next week.
The 2021 Professional Football Researchers Association Convention will be held at the Gold Jacket Lounge at the Pro Football Hall of Fame during the final weekend of June. Convention speakers will celebrate the 100th anniversary of the founding of the NFL. The fee for the convention is $50 for members and $100 for non-members. The fee includes admission to the convention and Pro Football Hall of Fame, meals on Friday evening and Saturday afternoon, and free parking. All convention activities are subject to COVID-19 protocols. For more details, click on the 2021 PFRA convention link at profootballresearchers.org.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, aka the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, we're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you got to do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you got to do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.